Welcome, friends, to this video in which I am very disappointed and very sad. There's a user, I'll put his name up on the screen here, who was an early watchdog warning system that I chose to not listen to like I should have done against the 6D Mark II's dynamic range. And that hurts. I'm not gonna lie, that hurts, because it's like, come on, Canon, you know better than that. Dynamic range on the 6D Mark II is terrible. It's not up to modern standards. It's not even as good as the 80D. You can find extensive materials to compare for yourself on DP Review, for example, but it is noticeably worse. And so, you know, like, what that comes down to is not like ISO 100 is bad or ISO 4000 is bad. What it means is, like, when you're trying to lift the shadows and drop the highlights in an image that's at ISO 100 or ISO 4000 or whatever, you're going to introduce more noise than you should be introducing, because you're going to hit the noise floor, it's called, really quick. And so you're not getting as much dynamic range out of those shadows, out of those highlights, as you should be able to. And that, I'm not gonna lie, that just really hurts, because it's like, come on, Canon, I was believing in you. I was turning my boat around. I was saying, you know what, I like Sony a whole bunch, but I really like a lot of things that Canon's coming out with, and I'm gonna give them a second shot. But if you dislike this video already, you know where that button is. But if you stick around, you might end up, you know, turning that frown upside down and smash that like button, ring the notification bell. I do like Canon, and I still want to be shooting with my Canon stuff, and I still want to get a couple of cameras out of them, but, you know, between that and DP Review also put out video footage. And, you know, the video footage was not very, I mean, it was making a mojito, and so I'm not making a comment on the process of making a mojito or the people in it, but the video was not very good. You know, the video quality, when with the in lens and in body stabilization together, when they moved through space forwards and backwards, it got really jittery. Like, it couldn't figure out that it was moving along, you know, the Z plane and not correct for that, which was a little disturbing, right? Like, so if you're trying to do a pan or a tilt or use a gimbal and you accidentally leave it on, that EIS is going to really mess up your image. There were a lot of points where I was like, that's a little too soft for what I want to use on a regular basis, which was disturbing, obviously. There were several instances where it felt incredibly over-sharpened. It looked fake and so digital that it was just, please don't, you know. So those are a lot of really disappointing things about the 6D Mark II. Production cameras have now been hitting reviewers' desks that we're seeing, and, you know, it's just really, really frustrating. And I know that I'm kind of harping on that, but I had big hopes for the 6D Mark II. I thought that was going to be like my next big camera, and it's obviously not, really. The stuff that's been coming out has been completely changing the way that I want to think about what cameras I get into going forward, and that's a little frustrating to me. Everything's frustrating about this so far, but I want to also kind of circle back around to the positives. I want to keep it positive, keep myself positive, if nothing else. I think the increased frame rate is great. I think the increased resolution is great. In a lot of the sample pictures that I saw, the increased resolution made a huge difference. Just having worked with a 6D that has 20 megapixels, a 6300 that has 24, and it having 26, it felt closer to where I want my full frame images to be as comparison where they are. You know, those extra 4 to 6 megapixels make a big difference oftentimes. And the thing is, despite the dynamic range not being really on a modern standard, I still massively prefer the noise that I get out of my Canon system to the noise that I get out of the Sony system. The noise out of the Sony and the mirrorless system is really like, you can pick out individual pixels, and okay, that's where the noise was. And that bothers me. I really don't like that at all. And the noise out of the Canon stuff is not quite as easily definable. It doesn't seem to turn into pixels quite so quickly, which is really great. So I think that's something that's really big in Canon's favor. It still has a slightly more analog and filmic look to it. So the increased resolution, increased frame rate, what the ISO noise looks like. And I do think the video is way better, actually, because there is DPAF. It doesn't seem like it's a particularly good implementation of DPAF, but having it makes a big difference, and having the touch to focus and being able to flip your screen out and look at yourself, big difference. I don't know if I would want to use it as a vlogging camera anymore, because if the 1080 isn't really on par with what I would be interested in using on a regular basis, which doesn't look like it is, I'd have to actually get my hands on one and try out a bunch of different picture profiles to know for sure, but it doesn't look like it. It's going to be great for a hobbyist, but I mean, my standard is now so much higher that I don't think that's going to be of any interest to me. So, you know, I just wanted to share my disappointment with you, because I had really high hopes, but I also want to share the positives, because I think in, you know, not necessarily mixed, but in low light, I think it's going to perform well. I don't think it's going to perform as well as an 80D. I don't think that it's going to be fantastic for a lot of things, but in terms of action, it's going to be a huge upgrade. In terms of resolution, it's going to be a huge upgrade. In terms of ergonomics, it's going to be a huge upgrade. So I think there's a lot of things that still keep it on the table, despite, you know, the dynamic range being an issue and the video not being quite everything it could be. So yeah, sound off in the comments. I'm really interested in having a conversation with you. Like, what does the dynamic range in the video performance being a little bit compromised by comparison to what I at least was expecting mean to you? So are those deal breakers for you, or are those just fine? And don't hesitate to check out the links in the description. Those all do good things for me, and I really appreciate it. So smash that like button, ring the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Hey, I want to take the next 5 seconds to encourage you to check out my LUT packs in my Etsy store that I grade all of my films with, as well. So check out the links in the description. Those Amazon affiliate links kick me back a few pennies on the dollar without impacting the cost to you. Using those both would mean a whole lot to me, and it would allow me to do a lot more with this channel, and so I appreciate your helping me with that.